What's up, everybody? Welcome back to All Things Nerdy. This episode is going to be a little different. Joe and I looked at our schedules, and we know in a couple months we're going to have a Thursday or two that we are not going to be able to make live episodes. So this is going to be a recorded episode that we post at a later date. So All Things Nerdy with Nate and Joe. I am Nate, a big time nerd. Love talking about everything and doing what we're doing. We have a super awesome special guest today named Jorge, one of my buddies from New Orleans. He actually got me into the topic that we're going to discuss. And that's for me, Joe.
Yep. Also, of course, big time nerd. But without further ado, George, talk nerdy to us.
What's going on, guys? What's going on? So my name's Jorge. I'm friends with these guys. I've been friends with Nate for a long, long time. And like he said, I got him into the hobby, and I myself got into playing Magic. Oh, I would say now, shoot, it's been that long. It's been like 8 years, which it feels like a lot, but not in the grand scheme of things. Magic's been around for 30 years, so I've only been into it and a fan and a player for just a portion of it. And we can talk about how we get into it a little bit later, but I'm just really excited to talk to you guys about Magic because it's something that I really enjoy and I really like talking about with people and teaching it as Nate knows.
On that topic, like you taught Nate, Nate actually started teaching me like later last year. So it's like, no, it's a triangle.
That's the best part. That's the greatest part about Magic. It just never ends. It's a big cycle.
Full circle. I've taught a couple people. Jorge, you're a much better teacher than I am because I'm like I
don't know about that.
I throw you into the deep end and hope you swim because I'd be like, look. So commander damage is 21 damage, right? So I'm going to hit you for 21, so you learn that and now you'll never forget that my commander can kill you with 21 damage.
So you're dead, and now you can watch and learn as we play. And I've seen him do it once or twice. It's funny for me because he doesn't do it to me. He knows better, but it's funny to see it for other people.
I mean, there's been games where he's turned all of my stuff into frogs. Just can't use anything. But it's definitely fun learning experience for sure.
Good old Magic. And I will say that too. I try to teach. So when I was teaching Nate, I was telling him, I was like, so what I like to play is not necessarily the most complicated, but it's the most convoluted because it's multiplayer. It's 3 people. It's a different rule set than what normal sanctioned Magic is. So it's like, it's going to be harder. So we can play 1v1. I can teach you like what the basic things is. And it's like, nah, I'll just do this. And then like in a week, he bought like $500 worth of cards. And he's like, we're playing. And I was like, okay, we're playing. So yeah, I didn't push him into the deep end. He's like, Geronimo, and just like cannonballed in there. And I was just like, all right, let me go get him. Come on, buddy.
Me and Josh were talking about the text where you sent us, and excuse my language, but you were like, guys, stop fucking buying cards.
Oh my God, yes. We can get into it. So I've known Nate now for a few years, but we got really, really tight during the pandemic. Everybody had their pods, like the 4 or 5 group people that were like, we trust you to not be stupid out there. And so we would meet up once a week and hang out and all that stuff.
Wearing mask, disclaimer.
Yes. Doing it safe. Like we all would work from home, except myself that I worked at the zoo, but I was isolated in the zoo, and we would all just get together and do that safely. And one time I told him, I was like, oh, I play Magic. And he's like, oh, I've always liked that. And I brought my cards in because we were talking about the art, how it was the really cool art and stuff. And I was showing him, I was like, well, this card does this card does that. This card looks really cool because it's this set is inspired. All the Magic sets are inspired by like little real life things or like folklore or story or mythology and whatever. And he's like, oh, that's so dope. And then like the next day, him and our buddy Josh were like, hey, I went to Target and I spent $40 on this thing. And I was like, okay, cool. That's a good little beginner thing. And then the next day he's like, hey, I went online and I was doing some research and I did, and knows a lick of Magic, like does not know anything based other than like the name of the game and what the card looks like on the front and the back side. He's like, and I did some, and I bought this and I bought this. And I was like, would you stop buying stuff? I have plenty of cards for all of us to play. And then you can start actually buying stuff once you know how to do it. And as you probably know, Joe, Nate doesn't listen really good. So he just kept doing it, and now his collection is how big, Nate?
Oh, it's big. It's too big. So I mean, at my new place, you can't see it, but at my old place, I had it all displayed. Actually built out a shelf with it, and then I have my custom made deck box that my wife had built for me for Christmas that holds 10 of my decks. So I have 10 commander decks, which are 100 card singleton format. So that right there is 1,000+ cards, and then on top of that, I had like 18 more decks, and then to the right of it, I had my binders for anything over 5, binders anything under 5, but over $1. And then I had like 10 different box sleeves filled with nothing but bulk cards.
And this is Joe. This is within a year of him playing. This is the amount of bulkage that he's built, and I'm just like, you're ridiculous.
That's so funny. Like I'm like the exact opposite. So I went to Architect and I was like, I'm gonna build all this stuff, but virtually, because I want to see how everything works. I don't want to go buy a bunch of physical cards and not understand how this game works.
You're smart. You're a smart man.
See, I'm a deep in person. I just jump in. I want to learn on the fly. I want to learn on the go and stuff like that. But so that is something I do want to talk about with Magic is something. So our styles are completely different, Joe, to me, right? I went out. I just dove in. I bought a lot. My wife probably didn't appreciate it, but it is what it is. You chose not to. The paywall is something that is discussed a lot in Magic, especially in the Commander format because it is singleton. And there is a split in the community between proxies and not proxies, right? So our house, our group, we always had a rule. If you own the card, we're 100% comfortable with proxies. If you wanted to buy a card but didn't know how it worked in your deck, fine with proxies and things like that. Our rule was like, just don't proxy out of the power level, right? Don't go proxy guys, cradles, and, things like that are just absolutely game breaking and stuff, $5,000 cards. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of us, but I've been to a local game shop here. I'm not going to name them, where like I just put a deck together. I didn't know if I liked it. So instead of buying it all, I just proxied it. I printed it. I cut it out, put it in cards. You had no idea. I had a guy like say something to me because the deck was, I was like, yeah, I'm just testing it out, dude. Like, I just want to see if I liked it. And it turns out I didn't. I played it twice, absolutely hated it. I was like, this is not my style of deck. I broke it down, like took what cards I did have out of it and stuff like that. So I'm super glad that I didn't buy it. But like, I was literally like, luckily for me, I'm like, I don't give a darn, like, who are you to talk to me? But some people, are different than that and would be like afraid to go back in that situation. And still today with my personality, like I prefer to play with my friends than to go to, game shops and stuff. But that's my preference because I have a pod. But let's talk about the paywall. All that long-winded nonsense to talk about the paywall. What are your thoughts on that, Jorge?
I think it's the thing with the Magic community is, as you know, online and offline and in person, it's very opinionated. So like everybody has like these stances that they're like, this is what I feel like, and this is what I feel like Magic should be. Magic is Garfield, the creator of Magic, intended, and yada yada yada. But the fact of the matter is, it's still a business, and Wizards of the Coast and Mattel, who's the owner, I believe it's of Wizards of the Coast. No, Hasbro. I'm sorry, Hasbro's the owner of Wizards of the Coast. They're out to make a profit, so they're going to maximize profits. And I mean, it's a pretty profitable business when it's literally pieces of paper, pieces of cardboard that they're just putting ink on, and then there's just this arbitrary value that skyrockets based on supply and demand, and they can control the supply and we control the demand, so there's this thing that Magic players, like, the integrity of Magic is like, you have to have the Magic cards and all of this and that, and at the end of the day, like, it sounds really, really cheesy when you say it, but a lot of content creators in the Magic world say it because it's right. It's the name of the game is called Magic the Gathering. And that's the most important part, is the gathering part. And if you're having fun with your friends, if you're gathering and doing this thing, most of the time, I mean, Nate, you and I have played Magic the Gathering many a times, hundreds of times. And how many times do we just stop playing Magic and we'll just start talking and making jokes and just doing something else with the Magic cards on the table? Like, that's what makes it fun. Yeah, we go to play Magic, but it's just much bigger than that. So I think as long as you're just doing the gathering and you're hanging out and you're playing with your friends with the cards, and like you said, the most important thing is something that you agreed upon beforehand, that you're like, hey, if you own the card, you can play it. If you don't own it yet, but you're planning on owning it or just testing it out, and like cool, like write it on a piece of paper. I know you and I would print cards before we played and like put it on the put it in the front of a basic island or whatever.
Yeah.
And like that's cool. So I think I always there's this really cool content creator, Olivia. She's on the the Commander advisory group. She's like a pretty important voice of the Commander. She has this thing. She's like, it's Commander. Who cares? Like, you're not playing for money. You're not playing for keeps. All you're doing is playing for bragging rights with your friends. Who cares? And
kitchen table magic at its best, baby. That is what it is.
That is what it is. And I mean, organized events, of course, very different. There's rules, there's regulations, but Commander, it's us getting to know each other, playing. And Commander, the cool thing about Commander is it's like this format that's like a very, very expressive format, like where you build your commander out of love and like, oh, I want to tell a story, and like, this is my character, my personality in card form. And if I can't afford $1,000 card, but the card is really, really good in the deck, and you're like, man, I really like the card and stuff, I have a conversation. Hey, Nate, like, I don't have this card, I don't like it, but it's really, really good in the deck, and the deck is all like women looking left, and like it's not like it's like super good, like super powerful, like it's dudes, shirtless dudes in chairs. Like, can I proxy this card that's like really, really good, but like honestly just fits the deck? Sure, buddy, go ahead. Like, whatever.
As long as you don't draw it and the game's instantly over, right?
Exactly. Like, oh, look at that, it's the first card I draw every turn. Well, maybe there's something different about you.
So we even went past for our group. So Jorge moved away and left us, unfortunately. I'm still a little hurt about that, but
it hurts me.
We still have a Magic group that we play, and we've even went one step further than that. And it's, as long as you don't proxy outside of the power level, because our group, my group specifically, we had a power creep. We were getting strong. I was consistently building and making my deck stronger and stronger and stronger. And I ended up building a CEDH deck, which we can talk about in a minute. And I only played it a couple times because I would win by turn 2, turn 3 every time. And that is just not our group. So I went back through every one of my decks and just pulled out so much nonsense. And what I've learned is, once I stopped caring about winning and started caring about the interactions, the good times, the laughs, the fun, like what weird stuff can I do with my decks, I started having so much more fun with Magic. But our rule became, just don't proxy out of the power level. That's all we care about. Just, we are here for casual fun. Like, if you in the game by turn 6 on some convoluted, crazy, untutored combo, like, cool. But like, if you have 14 tutors and you're going to get the same 2 cards to win every time, like, it's just not fun for everybody. For us,
absolutely. And that's the key. That's the key thing, is like, out of the power level, you can still, like, if that's what fancies you. Like, I know Nate's very competitive. Me and Nate play sports all the time, and neither of us like to lose. And when we play video games, neither of us like to lose and stuff. Like, if we want to scratch that itch, you can still kind of have an agree upon and be like, hey, these are strong decks. Like, we can do, like, at the end of the night, hey, let's all bring the big guns. Let's see what we got. Like, we got
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Let's play to win. Cutthroat. Like, I'm gonna kill you. You gonna kill me. I'm not gonna get mad at the nasty things that you're gonna do. Like I don't have a hand anymore, or I don't have any lands by turn 3, and you're like, oh no, what happened? This is not fun. No, you agreed upon this beforehand. The rule 0 conversation of Magic, and be like, hey, what are we trying to achieve in this game? Then that's cool. So, like, you guys have your power level. You don't go lower than this, higher than this, to have fun. And then at the end of the night, or to start the night, you're like, hey, let's play some like garbage. Let's play some like terrible Magic with just cards that we found in a ditch somewhere. Cool. Or like, hey, let's play with like all the big guns and play with all the $1,000 cards, like the cards that are like in vaults and stuff, that are just pieces of paper that we draw, so we can just play really, really like aggressive, strong, high level Magic. Cool. But you agreed upon it beforehand.
Yep. So I do want to talk about Rule 0. So I got 2 things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the format of Commander in of itself and an explanation of that. But let's start with Rule 0. What is Rule 0 for everyone that's going to listen to this? Talk us through that.
Okay, so to talk about Rule 0, you have to talk about just Commander real quick, in the sense that it's a non-sanctioned format. Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast does not put up official tournaments for this. It's not a competitive format. It actually was originated by judges that wanted to play with cards in between actual official games. So they came up with this format that we can talk about a little bit later, and it's a really cool thing that we can that we'll dive into. But then the rule zero was, it was these 4 dudes that were talking. They're friends. They're lifelong friends that were playing this, so they knew each other. They knew their tendencies. They knew how each other played and what each other liked and didn't like. So they could have the conversations like Nate was talking about earlier about, hey, what's allowed, what's cool, what's not cool with our play group. Rule zero is more so for when you go out and play in the wild with other strangers that you're like, I don't know you, I don't know what nice and fun, like, like we all say like, oh, this deck is fun for me. Well, fun for me might be you don't get to do anything, or like fun for me means like I get to combo off because I like convoluted, well, in response, and like people are super confused. So it was kind of created of like, hey, before the game starts, these are the things that I would like to do in this game. These are the cards that I have in my deck that might feel sorry or salty for some other people, and this is what I'm trying to do. Does this sound fun to all of y'all? And if you agree with it, then you've had a rule zero conversation. Everybody's on the same page. We're gonna let Nate do his thing. We're gonna let Joe do his thing. I'm gonna do my thing, and then may the best man win. May the coolest deck do its thing. And I think that's the most important thing when it comes to Commander, especially when you're going out, like Nate said, to have a pleasant experience out in the wild. Nate, unfortunately, probably didn't have that conversation go as smoothly with the guy that he said about like he tried to have it, because I know Nate and I know he's a good dude, and he was just like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. And in a sense, the guy had a successful rule zero conversation, or the gal. I'm sorry, I don't know who you were.
The guy joined on turn 2. He joined late.
There we go.
So he missed the whole and we only had a 3-pot. And he's like, "Do y'all care if I join you because you're early in the game?" So we actually let him go back to back because he joined late, and then he decided to get in his feels and be upset when he wasn't there to have the conversation.
So there you go. Yeah. So there you go. That's the perfect example of it. Like had he been there for the conversation, he would have been like, "Oh, actually, that doesn't jive with me." And you're like, "Hey, no hard feelings, cool. Find another pod. Have a good one," because you still have that conversation of like what's cool within the group, and more importantly, the rule zero is so everybody's on the same page, but also it's a great conversation starter, so you yourself can kind of expand what you like and don't like. Like I can be like, hey, like I have this deck that's a really combo heavy deck, and it's gonna do a lot of scary things. This, that, or the other, and then the person might be like internally be like, oh, I really don't like combo decks, but like I really like this guy. Nate's really cool dude. Like I like playing with him. Oh, let me play let me play against a combo deck and see what it's like, and from a guy that I like. So then the next time that someone's like, hey, this deck does this, and this archetype is going to do these things, and it's going to be pretty scary, then you can be like, oh, I'm ready. I know how to answer that. I know how to attack it. I know what to do. I know what to prepare for. And then you just in a sense become a better Magic player, because you're opening and allowing yourself out of your comfort zone and allowing more and more things at your table. And then to the point where me personally, my rule zero conversation is, what do you guys want to do? And then you're good, cool. This is my deck, and I don't care. I'll play against everything and anything one time. And after the game, I'm like, oh, that was really cool. And I was like, oh, man, you know what? Like, that deck's a little bit too strong for my taste. I'll play with you, like, with a different deck that's a little bit stronger for me. But, like, if at this level, maybe try something else. And I'll play with everybody and anything once.
So it's really about having the conversation up front and getting to knowing what to expect, not blindsiding people you've never met before with something that could essentially make them pretty mad or make them not have a good time. So it's really just, hey, we're all here to have a good time. Let's set expectations up front, that kind of
thing. Exactly.
And being honest about it is so important. So I'm part of a few Magic groups, and you wouldn't believe how many people are like, hey, I went to, the LGS the other day. This guy's like, oh, it's a power 5. And then comes out, turn 3, he tutors 6 different cards, combos off, everybody loses. He's like, that's not That's not power 5, bro.
And that's why I don't like asking power levels to decks. I just ask, hey, what does your deck do? And like, how do you try to win? I don't ask for cards in the deck. I don't ask for like, do you have tutor? Like sometimes I might like, do you have? I'm like, but like, what does your deck do? And how do you win?
Yeah,
Because that way I can gauge. I'm like, okay, well, this deck makes tokens. Okay, well, I've played long enough to know what cards make tokens, so I know what I'm looking for. Or like, oh, this card's like, this is a wheel deck. Like wheeling is a strategy where you like discard your hand and draw a bunch more. So I'm like, okay, I know that this is a graveyard deck. I'm like, okay, I know what he's gonna do, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then how do you win? Don't tell me the card, but like, oh, I win by damage to your face, or I win by comboing out or milling or whatever. Okay, look, I know that, and opening yourself up to that conversation and opening yourself to like allowing other people to do that makes you a better person. And also, honestly, like I always like to say this because it's a lot of a stereotype that's true but not true, that like nerds and people like to do all these things are like kind of socially awkward or don't have like great communication skills, and that's not true. Like it's not true. Like
some of the greatest people I've met play Magic, play D&D, play all these things that are considered really nerdy, that come with the stigmatization of being socially awkward, you know, staying in your mom's basement, not showering, not wearing deodorant, just being just weird things, and that's just not the case.
That's not true. And yeah, and even when you find yourself in a because I mean, there's people from all walks of life that play Magic. You will find yourself with someone that like is not really good at like talking or like trying to express their opinion or express their ideas well, or because they do feel uncomfortable. It's on you as a steward of the game to be like, hey man, like, hey girl, like what's like, just talk to me and we can talk and you tell me, and then you start helping them kind of communicate better what they do, and like you can see the joy of like people like getting more comfortable just talking to strangers, making friends, and like actually doing the shit talking, excuse my language, of like, and you're like, oh, like look at you coming out of your shell, and like that enhances their ability to enjoy the game, because now they're more comfortable doing that more and more, and the more they have those pleasant experiences during the Rule Zero conversations, the less that Nathan experience is going to happen of like, oh man, I wish I knew, like, what, you're more open to it. You're more receptive to like just averse situations because you've been through it all.
Yeah.
I
was
gonna say, I think the power levels are probably really good for more beginners like me, because I wouldn't know to ask all of those questions. But if you tell me that your power level is like over 5 or 6, I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't think I want to. You're a little more intense than I would prefer.
Absolutely.
And then I think another thing that I like to know is the color, because like I have a basic understanding of like what each color does. So if you're a certain and you can go through the colors in a minute, but if you're one of those certain colors, I'm like, I don't know if that's going to be fun for me.
So the one question I always ask is, so I don't even ask like, how do you try to win? I ask like, what turn do you try to consistently win by? And I think that is one of the biggest tells, because if somebody's like, oh, well, I try to win by turn 5 every time, and then I pull out my $50 dragon, budget deck, I stand no chance there. Now, I will
full disclosure, there's no such thing as a $50 budget dragon deck. If Nate's building a dragon deck, it's not going to be $50. It's not going to be budget. It's going to be really strong. It's going to burn your face with dragons firing at you.
So we had a league actually where I did build a $50 budget dragon deck, and I don't think I lost a game in the whole league.
What?
See? Sure. Yeah. $50 dragon budget. Shut up.
So it was Klaus.
This is me and Nate play Magic.
It was Klaus. Okay. And I just put in big bangers, and then I would get Klaus out, hit somebody, have a massive amount of mana, and then I'd be like, well, I'm gonna play this dragon, I'm gonna play this dragon, I'm gonna play this dragon, and then the game's over. I'm sorry. But that is what, because I think asking what turn do you try to win,
absolutely,
because like I have a deck, Jorge, you've seen this, my Orvar deck. It is either I'm popping off doing the craziest things you've ever seen in Magic, or I'm over there like twiddling my thumbs. But on a consistent level, I'm probably winning by the turn like 9 or 10, if not even later. But there have been times where I've drawn like a god hand. I've won like turn 3. And there can be times where I sit down with strangers and I'd be like, hey, it's kind of casual, but it can pop off. Like, You know, like I can sit here and do nothing all game, or I can win on turn 2. But if I don't tell them that, and I'm like, hey, it's casual, it's probably power level 6, right? 7, maybe. There's no tutors, but if I get the right cards, it'll go crazy. But then say I do draw that God hand and I didn't have that conversation, I'm like, oh, it's power level 6. And then I went on turn 3 because of some ridiculous, stupid thing.
I'd come across and slap you across the face. I'm kidding. I would never do
that. Exactly.
I'm just over here like, you guys get wins?
You guys.
Okay, so we've talked a long time and a lot about Magic and Rule Zero and all that. Explain Commander and what makes it different.
Okay, so Commander is this format, like I said, that was invented, like it was created by not Wizards of the Coast. It was created by these 4 judges, and they are now what they're called the Commander Rules Committee. They wrote the rules for Commander, and it's there's 3 big differences from standard Magic play, which is the card. It's a singleton format, so you can only have 1 of each non-land card or non-basic land. Usually, other formats allow you to have 4 of each card. The decks are 100 cards, no more, no less, which is different because normal decks usually are 60 with a sideboard. No sideboard.
There are caveats. This is what makes Magic so difficult. And we're going to talk about how do you get into it, but there are caveats to each, like singleton formats, except for basic lands. You can have as many islands as you want, but only islands. You can't have, like 10 Yorborgs, which is not an island, it's black, but like you can't do that, right? You can only have a singleton format for anything other than basic lands.
Correct. And then the third and most important thing is the namesake of the format. Each deck has a commander. So the commander is this card that exists outside of the deck, exists in the command zone, that you have access to the whole time during the game, and you can cast it as however many times you want. There's rules about how many times, like how you cast it, and every subsequent time after the first one. But that card, because you have access to it all the time, is very important in how you build your deck. And it's in the sense that, like, whatever colors the commander is, so there's 5 colors of Magic: red, black, white, green, blue. Whatever colors the commander are, every card in your deck has to be one of those colors at least. So you can't have a red and white deck commander and then have blue, black, and green cards in your deck. So if it's a red, white deck commander, red, white deck, nothing more, nothing less. And the commander exists outside the command zone, and it has abilities because it's always there all the time. And based on the abilities of your commander and what the commander does, your deck wants to do those things. So you can kind of have these things called synergies within the deck. So like, oh, because I have my commander out, I can do these things. These cards that usually are really, really bad are actually now really, really good because he's there. Or the commander, because of these cards that I have, the commander gets really, really good and then goes crazy and pops off and does all those things. So like those are the 3 big differences. Oh, and a fourth one, a quick one that's a little bit less relevant. Standard Magic 1v1 is 20 life. You start at 20 life, and the goal is to get them to 0. At Commander, you have 40 life because there's 4 players, and that's the biggest difference in Commander is that it's a multiplayer format. So you can play it 1v1, but you can play with as many people as you want. Usually, pods of 4 or 5 is standard, is what you see.
Yeah. I've even went up to a pot of 8. I don't recommend it. It takes forever. Everybody has an answer for something. It's it's a very long game. You don't talk about social, casual. Sit at a pot of 8 because you got to become friends with the person next to you, the person across from you.
My second or third Commander game ever, I played a game of 9 at a buddy's house, and we played one game, and we started at 6 and we ended at 11:30. But like you said, we ordered pizza, we were having drinks, there was a dog, we were playing with the dog. Let's say Joe was across the table over there. Hey, what are you doing? No, can't counter that. And you'd like forget, you wouldn't keep track of turns. It was a disastrous actual Magic quality game, but such a fun night. But I'm like, I'm never doing this again. But this was a lot of fun.
I think my favorite thing about Commander, and y'all know me, so you're going to agree with this 100%, the politics of Commander, right, is by far and away one of the most important aspects of Commander. You have your cards, but you don't understand how important, A, your actions are, B, the words that come out of your mouth are, and like how when you are working with the table, identifying a target, or even just talking someone out of stopping something you do. So one of my favorite stories, I had a couple people in my house. My buddy Josh was there, and my buddy Chris was there, and his wife was playing with us, and she'd only played a couple times. I was playing my Zedru deck, which actually came from a Dirty Santa Christmas gift from Jorge. Thank you so much. I was playing that, and she was going to kill me right on her next turn. So on my turn, I played 9 lives, and then I gave it to her. 9 lives states basically if she takes X amount of damage, she dies. But the caveat is when I die, and if it leaves the board, you lose the game. So if I die, the card comes with me and she loses the game, right? So
that's hilarious.
I'm sure that she couldn't kill me and most likely would come in second. Josh is over there convincing her like, hey, just kill Nate. I'm going to win. It's fine. Not a big deal. So I decide, I'm going to take the approach. Like, I did this. You deserved it. I did this. I admit it. I agree. But hear me out. What if you just killed Josh? And there was no reason for her to do it. She's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to kill Josh. And Josh legitimately was just pissed because it made no sense. It did not. I don't know how she did it. And I'm kind of known in our group as like, don't listen to him. Nothing coming out of his mouth makes sense. Just kill Nate, right? But she did. She killed Josh. And then I won on my turn. And Josh was like, frick. He's like, I don't understand how you do this.
Hilarious. Yeah, no, politicking is the best part because it is a multiplayer format. So, like at some point you might need someone's help to challenge a bigger threat. And sometimes you might create a blood feud with someone that you're like, okay, you know what? I'm not winning, but neither are you.
Maybe they get rid of lightning greaves on Kalia, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Turn 2. That's okay. Listen, I'll come in 4th, but you're definitely coming in 3rd. Like that kind of thing.
And that's me and Josh fun. Have like a blood feud like every time we play.
That's the best. That's the best when you're like, I used to play with Nate a whole lot, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm not gonna kill Nate first. In my head, I'm like, I'm gonna play the game, feel it out, and all that stuff. And then Nate did some nonsense, and I'm like, guess I gotta kill Nate first. And it just ended up that way every time. And you're just like, I'm sorry, Nate, but don't do that. And started yelling at each other, started fighting, and then like the game's over, we're like, hey, are we ordering some pizza? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Shuffle up, let's get the next one.
You never take hard feelings out of a Magic game, right? I think the coolest part of Magic is watching people's deck do their thing, as long as it doesn't win them the game.
Absolutely. It's really cool for you to do that. Just come in second, man.
Yeah. I just want to win. I want to see you do your thing up until like I'm at 1 life, and then I need you to stop.
Yeah. Like, oh, you're gonna win? No, destroy, counter, exile, bye.
I'm always like, how do I do something without making myself a target? Like that's the best. Like my whole thing.
For being new to Magic, you've already learned the most important thing a commander is: lay low, lay low, lay low, blah, win.
See, I haven't even figured that out. There's times where I'm like, I think I win next turn, and they're like, all right, we got to kill Nate. And I'm like,
shut up,
It's like an ego part of me where I'm like, guys, if you don't kill me, I'm gonna win. Yeah. So now you have 3 people's turns to kill me, otherwise I'm gonna win the game. And I don't know why. I love it. I'm just like, guys, if you don't kill me, I win on my turn.
And see, but like it's funny, but like that's a really important thing that your play group has kind of figured out, that like, and you still find enjoyment out of it. You're like, I'm doing all these things. And sure, you would like to win, but to you, it brings you joy to put yourself as that like, hey, in that spot where be like, hey, if you guys don't kill me, I will win, and that brings you joy. So then, if they kill you, you're like, it's whatever, because I knew I was going to win, but I told them, and I feel good about that. And if they don't do anything, then you win. So it's a win-win for you.
And then they don't feel bad because they knew it was coming.
Exactly. So like that's how you work. I don't. I'm like, look at me, silly me. Oh, never mind. Blah 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 blah. I'm sneaky, assassin. I don't know if you, Joe. I don't know if you know this, but based on what I've said, my favorite color to play is black, and that makes a lot of sense. When I'm just like, nothing, power.
Yep. I'm going to sack this and sack that and sack this for value. You know what? I don't need this. I'm going to take value from that too. What is happening over there?
Yeah.
And there's been many a game where we've had 3 turns to kill Nathan because he's announced it.
Yeah.
I can just like I can vouch for this. Like, yep.
And
Now
then my
everyone's trying to
favorite
kill
thing,
Nate.
yeah, and then my favorite thing to do when that happens is to then hold all my removal back. I hold all of the answers to Nate back and let everybody else deal with him.
I
Because
think that
then I'm like, if they can, cool, and then I have everything else to beat them. And if they can't, then I'll kill him, and then I'll still have stuff, and they don't have anything else. So then I'm at the advantage. So I mean, that just comes with experience and playing with many people and like doing that. And sometimes I do it. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? Like let's play, and just it's just a matter of knowing the game enough to kind of feel those ebbs and flows of like this is the time to do this. And sometimes it backfires greatly. I like hold everything back, and then Nate kills me first, and I'm like, well, I had all this stuff, and then everybody then gets mad at me like, you had all of that and you didn't kill him. I'm like, no, that's for you guys to do. I don't care.
I think it's part of the reason I do it is because when you're backed into a corner, you do everything you can. You put everything on the table.
Absolutely.
Most people, you don't, right? You said you'll wait. But most people are like, okay, like, well, I'm going to play everything I can. I'm going to do everything I can to stop it. So that's when I get to see like everything people's decks are meant to do. Because if you know, like, this is my last turn, you take a longer turn. You tend to think about it, and you're like, okay, if I have any shot of winning, how do I win? Let me look at what my deck does, and how can I do it right now?
Yeah, because then Nate has no option, but then instead of winning, he has to prevent someone else from winning. So that stalls you a turn, and then that stalls you, and then you're like you buy yourself, the table buys themselves a turn because someone else went off. But then you're like, okay, well now Joe's just as big of a threat as Ned, so we have 2 threats to answer. Like, what do we do? And those are the cool things about Commander, that just like it swings back and forth, up and down, so big that just it makes the game so much more fun to me. That's why I just love the format so much.
So Jorge is a black player. I'm gonna get crap for saying this. I'm very much a mono blue player for the most part. So I was much worse when we first started. I was a big control person. I wanted to have all the counters and stuff like that. But honestly, I just like mono blue, but I don't run a ton of control anymore, right? It's just, I don't know. I like the art styles of blue. I like a lot of what blue does without, I still run the counter spells and all those things, but I like blue. Joe, what's your favorite color?
I think I like the burn that red has. Like,
respect.
So on Cockatrice, which is a free way to play Magic. Like if you ever want to learn how to play Magic, I highly suggest like Cockatrice, MTG Arena, things like that. But I have a Norin the Weary deck that I absolutely love. It's mono red. The power level is probably like 2. It is so bad, but man, it is so much fun.
That's hilarious. But we can talk about the colors real quick. I'll do just a quick example, so just so people that we've talked a lot about, like not higher level Magic, but like not beginner level Magic. Magic has these 5 colors: white, blue, black, red, green, and they all have this like, what's it called? Like the core values of the color, like what the color is intended to do and what
it is getting gray these days.
Yes,
the line is becoming very much blurred because you can only keep to that for so long. Right?
Absolutely, but there is this like core value that each color has, and it's like red is very, like you said, fiery, burn, passion, instinctual, like just aggressive. White is very orderly, like they like order, so it's just like a lot of stuff that prevents you from doing things or like taxes you for doing things, and it's just order, so that's like soldiery and like very like straightforward.
Nathan likes to call that the pillow fort for Josh.
Yes, exactly, and all that. Green is nature and beasts and big beefy things, big strong things, big things that don't like technology, is just brute force and power, like stompy. Yeah. Blue, like he said, is control, is like kind of like intelligence, so like knowledge of the game, so like not letting you do things because I know that it was coming, or like drawing cards because I like to have more information. Your deck is the information that you want, so like drawing cards, more of that is having more information, so like that knowledge in blue. And then
all my decks are draw heavy, that's why I love blue.
Yeah. Like, and then black is power. Black they like to kill things, and they like to bring stuff back from the graveyard because we don't abide by rules. So like just I like to like I'll use life because life is a resource to do things, or I'll like take damage to do this to you because it's powerful, and just like it's very, very heavy and into that power stuff. And then a combination of those colors, like green and black, or red and blue, or white and red, has a little bit of the aspects of each one, and then like what they can and can't do. And the commander, then that's why it's so important that, like, because if someone's commander is, say, blue and black, you know what they can do really, really well: draw and sacrifice and like just all of these shenanigans. But you know what they can't do very well, which is they can't do the stuff that white, red, or green can do. They don't have big like enchantment destroying, because they don't like green's the one that's really good at like destroying those things, because they like nature and stuff. So if you don't see green, you're like, okay, well, they can't do that very well. Or like if you don't see white, okay, well, they don't have a whole lot of wrath effects, so like destroying everything, because white likes order, and like too much stuff bad, so kill everything. So if you don't see white, then you're like, okay, well, they still have access to it, because blue and black do that to an extent with conditions, but then they're not able to do it as well as another color. So based on what you see and don't see from other people's commanders, you know what they can and can't do.
Yeah, and then you can get all the way up to like 5 colors, right?
Absolutely.
Like I have a 5-color Kenrith deck and things like that. Just kind of do everything. It's very kind of political. People don't take my deals anymore.
My favorite deck. I love that deck, and my favorite deck that I have, I mean, it changes every now and then. It's a 5-color deck as well. I love playing 5 colors.
That's too much going on for a beginner. I'm just like,
yeah, absolutely. No, it's definitely more advanced level playing 5 colors. But
so if you want to get into Commander and you're brand new, and this is something we ask every episode because it's kind of the point of these type things, right? So if you want to get into Commander, you want to get into Magic, what do you suggest they do?
If you want to get into Commander, don't play Commander. No, I lie. Commander, like I said, Commander is a little bit more not advanced, but it's convoluted. So like if I were to teach someone the right way, not like I taught Nathan, not by choice, again, Nathan's fault, is I would teach them just to play 1v1 Magic, so they understood what the cards did, what is a creature, what is an instant, a sorcery, a land, what is tapping for mana, and all that stuff. 1v1 with the cards in front of you. And then once you learn how to do that, then okay, let me teach you what Commander is. And the differences are what we talked about earlier: the life, the decks, and the Commander, and the color restrictions and all that stuff. And then I would probably do like a 1v1 or like a 3-player game, so like you could get a little taste of the multiplayer aspect of it, and then like learning how to do that. And then we would start building decks on your own. Be like, okay, now that you know what the cards do, now then what you know what Commander is, you have to build your own deck. Like you have to express. That's the coolest thing to me about the best part. I mean, Nate knows the best part about Commander is building the deck. And then
I've built so many decks that I've never even played.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I just enjoy building them. I have EDH REC pulled up on my computer right now because I want to put together an Urted deck. So there's a few things that I want to talk about. So EDH REC is a big one where you can go in, you can put in whatever card, and it gives you recommendations from top, high synergies, creatures, and it walks through everything that could go into the deck and how it works and stuff like that. And then there are free ways to put together decks, not necessarily like you can build them on like Architect, MTG Goldfish, and
Moxfield. Moxfield's a really good one too.
Moxfield and stuff like that, where you can see the cards that you have, what they do. You can put them in there. It'll tell you land count, instant count, sorcery count, all those types of things. And then you can kind of goldfish them, which is where you kind of play against yourself and, mock situations and stuff like that. But that allows you to build out a deck and kind of play it at no cost. It's 100% free. None of them charge you anything and stuff like that. So
then, yeah. And then once we start like, okay, this is how you build a deck. This is what the cards that you like. This is kind of the ratios of like lands and spells that you need. You start building decks, and then you start playing them. Then you sink or swim, and then you're like, okay, like you know how to play because you've played 1v1. You know what creatures are, instants, sorceries, the rules, combat. Combat is very important, very tricky to learn. The faces of a turn, and now you know how to do that. Then let's just play, and you're gonna suck because that's just the way. That's just the way it is. Nobody becomes a master without sucking first, right? Like nobody becomes experienced without sucking first. Those first couple of games, I mean, Nate knows, for the first couple of times where we played Commander, we would show up at his house at 6:30. We'd leave at 10 and we'd play one game because it took us 3 hours to just get through and questions and questions. So, well, what if I do this? Well, what if I do this? A lot of take backsies. Well, no, I don't want to do that and all that stuff. And then now you guys probably play 5-6 games a night, depending on how quick people are going.
Yeah. And I will say, read the card explains the card, but not always.
Not always. Not always. A lot of times. That's how I learned when I first started playing. Me and a buddy of mine at work, we bought these bulk cards. It was like 2,000 cards for $20 or $40, something like that. And they were just garbage cards. And we just started learning. And then we would play at lunch and be like, okay, I do this. Can I do that? Wait, hold on. And then like we'd had a computer next to us and you like click, click, click. Oh yeah, I can do that. And then like, okay, well, how I do this? Oh, wait, can you do that? And then like, no, you can't do that. Okay, then take it back. But then with time and practice, you start learning the game, learning the patterns, learning what cards can and can't do, and then knowing and seeing them more and more. Then you just like, oh, I play this, I know what that does, so you can just kind of blitz through a turn, and then it stops being Magic and it becomes being The Gathering.
Yeah. So for me, I'm a little different. Like I said, I would just say buy pre-con, go play. Buy pre-con. Well, caveat: watch some videos, some game nights, some things like that to learn the foundations and understandings. But go play. Most people, especially if you tell them, "I'm new, I'm learning." If you just show up and say, "Hey, I've never played, I want to learn," some people are gonna be like, because they only have X amount of time in their day, or they might only get to play once a week. But if you come in with the foundational knowledge, like, hey, I've watched some videos, I kind of understand, I'd love a chance to play. Most people will be like, yeah, come on, we'd love to have you.
Absolutely.
But have that understanding. So watch some game nights or, extra turns, whatever it is. There's so many podcasts out there that are Magic specific, or so many YouTube channels that are based on Magic and games like that. Joe, you just learned, right? Like we just started playing probably about 6 months ago. What do you wish? What are some things you wish I would have done differently in teaching you?
Well, I like the style. I mean, pretty much what you did was you threw me in and 1v1'd you, and like crushed me, kind of like Jorge was saying earlier. But I liked that style because it was very hands-on. Now, I probably should have did a lot more research up front, like you were saying, like watching some videos. I think I watched 2 videos of how Commander was played and what the difference was between Commander and the like traditional play. And then I was like, let's go. But I would definitely like say, like, once you like, hey, we've played this amount of games, now go build it. Like that was like the biggest thing, because then I had to read each card, get a better understanding of what they did, how they work together, and those sites that you like mentioned earlier, like that show you how, like give you tips on like what could work well together. Those were huge, just to be able to understand, like it's going to show you some combos that you can use, and it's going to just help you understand the game a lot better.
And the thing about Magic too is, like I said, when we first started, Magic's been around for 30 years. There's thousands and thousands. I've been playing, like I said, for 8 or 9 years, and I know nothing. I still learn, and I still do things that I make mistakes all the time because I just don't know the cards well enough, or I don't know the interactions with like this one card from 1997 that like I haven't seen. And I was like, wait, hold on, what does that do? And how does that work with this?
There's like decks that I don't even remember buying, or I'm like, why is this in there?
Yeah, and so like the degree of difficulty, the learning curve is really high at first, and it might look and feel overwhelming, which is why I personally like to kind of like just ease people into just like playing 1v1 and learning the cards, because it's like, okay, this is an instant and I can play it now, but you can't do, well, why is that different from this, a sorcerer? And it's like, well, okay, well, this is why, and this is why. And that's why like learning takes such a long time, because it's just like once you learn the core basics, then it's just like, oh, okay, I know all of this. Now I'm just bad at it and I just need to get better. But knowing the core is the most important part, which is why I like to just teach that real quick first, and like do this a couple of times, play 1v1, do the thing, and then like off to the races. And then, like you said, all those resources, once you have them, like now, once you know the game and once you know what each card does, having Moxfield and Architect, and then like now that you know that, you enjoy the content more, because you know, like when you watch game nights, you're like, oh, I know that card. Nate used it against me and it hurt a lot. Or like, or when you watch the rules committee, they have a stream. I think it's once or twice a week, every week, and they play. You're like, wow, these are the people that invented this game. I want to see how they play and I want to see their decks, and it's really, really cool. And then like once you start feeling like the content creators are like celebrities, and you're like, oh, like their characters or personalities bleed into their decks. And like if you ever do, I know Nate, you stream, so like if you ever play on there doing this podcast and learning, like people learning who you are and how you behave just personally in a personal manner, it bleeds into the cards, and that's just so much more fun because then you know the people and you know the cards.
Yep.
And that's what makes Magic.
I think that is one of the funnest things about it, right? Is like if you know me, I'm full of nonsense. Like I have shenanigans all the time and things like that. So I build a ton of like convoluted, round and about, just weird decks because that's who I am and it's what I enjoy. But like you're saying, to add to it, like I think every person has a style and they put some of their personality into their decks. Now, some people net deck and that is completely fine. I'm not against it at all. But building decks and finding out what you enjoy and how you like to do things and stuff like that is one of the funnest parts of Magic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, power through it. Like I love dinosaurs. I'm a zookeeper. I got into zookeeping because of Jurassic Park, and I was like, oh, I want to be a dinosaur keeper. And then I discovered that dinosaurs weren't around anymore. I was like, well, animals are the best thing. So
he's an awesome zookeeper, by the way. We gotta throw that out there.
Thank you. So one of my favorite decks is a dinosaur deck, and there's dinosaurs in Magic, and I was like, oh, sweet. And it's a really fun deck. It's a really cool deck. It's powerful. Nate's been stumped by dinosaurs before. It's pretty great. And it's just like a thing that you're like, oh, I know everybody likes dinosaurs, but to me, it's a personal thing because my profession was born due to love of dinosaurs. So I treat that deck very particularly, and it's very personal to me. While there's many dinosaur decks around there, I put a little bit of a little bit extra care and love into it because I like that. And then like Nate's the same way. He's like, oh, I love this. I know you like Harry Potter. I know you like fan fiction stuff. So like when Strixhaven came out, there's this Magic set that was kind of
Harry Potter-ish.
This like Harry Potter, yeah, like allegedly. We don't want to get in trouble. It's like very mage school themed.
They have wands.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nate was like, I love this. And he bought every card about it. And it's just like, I can't wait. And that's the cool thing is like you can put your like little signature on your deck based on who you are and what you like.
So, all right. I was going to say, I know we're running up on time, but that made me think of a question for both of you.
Absolutely.
Since you've been kind of playing for a while, I have a bunch of cards. So what is a collaboration that you would like to see in the future that Magic the Gathering does?
That's
you go
tough.
Ahead first, Nate.
No, you go. I got to think about that for a second.
Okay, so I think the one that I would like to see that I haven't seen yet, because they've done a couple of like these things called Universes Beyond, where like they use the intellectual property of other stuff. The one that it's obvious, it's sitting right there, and they haven't done is Star Wars. Like it's the classic like nerd central, like it would be a nerdgasm, just like Star Wars. Like Luke is a Magic card. Darth, like the second they come out, I'm building a Darth Vader deck because he's gonna be black.
Disney's never given up those rights.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But the cool thing is you can proxy that. I can put Darth Vader on a card and use it as long as I'm making money. I'm like, okay, here's my Darth Vader deck.
Yep. I have a Death Star that is a proxy of Aether Flux Reservoir, and it's the Death Star.
That's awesome. So, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, man, so I know they're doing a Lord of the Rings one. That's coming up. I think that would have been mine. I'm really glad they're doing it. That's tough. Star Wars, I probably would have went with Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of that, I would have to say.
I got one for you, Nate, that I know you like. The Avatar, Last Airbender.
Oh yeah, I think just doing some like anime ones would be really cool. Think about like One Punch Man or something like that.
Absolutely, or Dragon Ball Z, some anime thing like Goku's your commander or Vegeta, like whatever.
And there are a ton of proxies that do that, but if they did a crossover,
officially,
like imagine like
Naruto.
I'm watching like Full Metal Alchemist right now. Like, imagine like Fury Bradley as a card.
That'd be sick.
It'd be crazy. So we are running up on time. I would love to get, what is your favorite Magic story? And if it contains me, then I would love to hear it. If not, I'd still love to hear it. what is your favorite Magic story?
I'll give you two quick ones. So my original play group in New Orleans, you play with one of those guys, Daniel, and you guys have had a lot of stories. We were playing this game, and I was playing my Brea deck. It's just an Artifacts Matter deck, and it's a really, really good deck. But I could not win. I could not win. I'm sorry, I could not draw lands. I was just doing nothing. So I was just sitting there, literally on my phone. I was not having a good time, and the other three guys were playing, and I'm just like, draw, discard the hand size. I don't have lands. I'm sorry, whatever. And they were having this really heated discussion about who Daniel was going to attack for like a lot of damage, not to kill him, but for a lot of damage. And it was Chris and Marco. And Chris and Marco are going after. It's like, no, you got to hit him. No, you got to hit him. No, you got to hit him because of this. You got to destroy that, kill that, and try to kill him. And they're like yelling over the table, like, do this, do this, do this. And I'm literally just sitting like this, just like on my phone waiting. And then Daniel's like, just like, okay, guys, I'll just attack Jorge. And I looked up and I was like, profanities that will not be repeated in this podcast. I was like, what are you talking about? And they were, the two other guys, Marco and Chris, were so shocked that he was going to do that. They were like, no, you should hit me because of these. Like, they started then politicking for him to hit them instead of me, because I was like, I will murder you next game. Well, I don't have anything right now. You're not winning a game for the rest. And I just went ballistic on him, and it was hilarious. That's one of my favorite ones. And then one that includes you, Nate, that's just a really, really funny one, is every time that Nate would try to, like, Nate's very politicky, and he would always try to like come and try to politic with me. I would just like put my hand up. I was like, I don't negotiate with terrorists. I'm not gonna deal with you. I'm not. You can blow gas my way, but I'm not gonna do anything. And then every time he would do that, I'm like, Nate, no, Nate, no. And he would just be like, but God, Jorge, that's not nice. Jorge, that's not nice.
Wow.
Come on, don't do that.
That's spot on. That's spot on.
No, it's not, Joe. No, it's not. No, it's not. That is not spot on. That will be cut from this podcast.
So yeah, every time Nate, it brings me a fond memory. We still play every now and then on Spell Table, and he's like, Jorge, and I'm like, no, knock it off.
The issue is the fact that everyone else picked up on that too, which pisses me off so much.
But I still do every now and then, and it's glorious when
it just made my life so much harder than what it needed to be.
But isn't it better? Isn't it so much better than like, it's like Goku and Vegeta teaming up? Like, it's like it didn't happen often, and then when they did, you're like, it was like, oh, they're doing it, and then like, you're like, all right, Nate, like, I'll do this if you do that, and like, cool, swell, and then it's game over for everybody else.
Awesome. Joe, do you have a quick story you want to throw out there? I know you haven't played a ton, but you gotta have something.
I haven't played a ton. I mean, the story view, like I kind of mentioned earlier with the frogs, always sticks out just so because it was so funny. Like anytime anyone would try to do anything, like Josh would be like, "Here's my commander." Now it's a frog. And then like the other player would be like, I'm playing this. But like, nope, now that's a frog. Like we at one point, the whole, like everyone had at least, 4 or 5 like monsters on the field, all frogs. Everything was frogs. And that like, it was just the most fun game just because hilarious. It was so wild and out there. And it just goes to show like you can do really silly things in Magic and make it so fun and just so ridiculous at the same time. And that's what really drew me in, was just like, it's not all about like, I'm going to murder you and destroy you and win the game. It was more of, let's see what crazy thing we can do next turn. Like that. And
that makes me so happy, because it's like the coaches, like the coaching tree, that they're always like, oh, Nick Saban does this, or like, and all these guys. It's like, you're part of my coaching tree, Joe, because I got taught by someone else, and then I taught Nate, and then Nate has all his little pupils, and you're one of them. So here, let's make a deal. Let's get together sometime on Spell Table with Cockatrice, and then you can have a favorite story with the both of us, Joe.
Yeah, that would be awesome, man.
There you do it.
Look forward to that.
Can't wait.
Well, Jorge, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for talking nerdy to us.
Absolutely.
It was a blast, man. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, dude. Thank
You
you
too.
for hanging out with us.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
anytime. I'm one call
Thanks, man.
away. I'm always down to chop it up for Magic.
I appreciate you, man.
See ya.
See ya.